Hi everyone, and welcome to Therapy Unfiltered. I'm Joe Valder, clinical counselor here, counseling services at Johnson & Wales University. On this show, we take the mystery out of mental health and help you understand what it's really like to sit on the couch. It's time to take a deep breath and dive in. Thanks, Mike. And earlier too, you mentioned identity development and just that idea and that experience. And of course, that's rather huge for students. In this particular age group, assuming you're a student who's 18 to 25 or so, because there's a lot of that happening, of course. And so, do you see that with students as well that you meet with? Do you experience directly like a student saying, "Hey, I feel I identify this certain way, and I haven't felt that before"? And
yeah,
like that?
absolutely. So we have a lot of students who are navigating. Maybe they are using new pronouns or using a new name or a name that they've always felt more connected to. So we can help them navigate all of our different systems and supports here at Johnson Wales. And once again, I have to give credit to Karina, who really drives a lot of this work. But within JWU Link, there is a gender affirming services page where students can provide updates anywhere they would like regarding their name and their pronouns. So it could have to do with display names. So within JWU Link, students can access the Gender Affirming Services page. And what that does is provides an overview of all the ways that their name and pronouns are used across all of Johnson Wales communications, whether it's mailing addresses, how it appears in class rosters, what appears on chef coats for our culinary students, name tags, so we can help students update any areas that they would like to and feel most comfortable doing that. As well as just providing additional supports and resources and referrals around their own identity development. And we also offer workshops for the JWU community. A lot of folks might not have experience working with different pronouns, so just providing some updates, or not updates, but information about what are pronouns and how do they work and how can we practice using the correct pronouns for our students and our colleagues, and what do we do if we make a mistake, right? How do we apologize and how do we do better? So those are some things that we do on the bridge as well.
Yeah, very helpful. And it makes me think too, because I had this experience over the last semester. Could you also be helpful, Mike, in assisting a student do the name change process in a more legal manner, like on their driver's license and through the state and whatnot? Do you have that experience as well? Because I know that can be rather complicated, right?
Personally, I do not have that experience. I would be comfortable helping a student kind of research that process, but I would likely reach out to some other colleagues here as well who may have that experience doing that.
No, certainly. Yeah, no, to me, it's just because like I said, and it's not an exaggeration, I probably bring up the bridge to every student I meet with just because I think and I think you're a tremendous resource, Mike, and I think it's just a good stepping off point, for anyone really. Yeah. And especially when I meet with first year students, and I've said this before about how difficult it can be to form that connection and form the attachment to JWU and feel in Providence and be like, hey, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and I think the bridge can, be a good start for that.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring it up all the time with folks. And, it's interesting, too, because I think a lot of things can be helpful with that, and this is maybe a bigger topic, but obviously employment while you're working, while you're a student can be tough, because adding that to your schedule. But I also think employment can form connection and can make you meet people that you wouldn't have met before, and same thing with a club or an activity. And same thing with really anything you're doing outside your dorm. And I think that's one of the most challenging pieces, Mike, is that when people have difficulty with connection, perhaps they can feel more isolated and perhaps they can feel more depressed, which then leads to more isolation, so it's like this tough pathway that happens. And obviously, as you can imagine, when a student spends more and more time in their dorm by themselves, those things just get more challenging and more complicated. And so a lot of it is just forcing yourself out of that dorm, and forcing yourself somewhere. And for me, honestly, when I'm talking with students and we're developing these plans of what to do outside your dorm, and again, not to sound like a broken record here, but one of the first things I say is how about we just take a walk to the bridge?
Yeah.
That's the thing I suggest. And actually with that, can't recall if you started with this, but can you talk to us more about where the bridge is exactly, just so we can...
Yeah, so the bridge, we're located in the Xavier complex. We are kind of there. If you enter behind the academic center, and right next to the residence hall, there's a little courtyard, and we're in the back corner of that courtyard. So it's hard to stumble across the bridge. You have to kind of know where we are and come over to us. But you would just enter right between the academic center and the residence hall, and you'll see us. We have a big sign out there. And I was glad, Joe, that you mentioned our different clubs and orgs as a resource for connection. We are fortunate to have over 100 different student clubs and organizations here at the Providence campus. And a lot of those different groups are cultural and religious based. So there are opportunities for students to either engage with their own identity and history and heritage in greater detail, or learn about the experiences and identities of other students. So one of the things we did in the fall was we hosted a resource fair on Gaby Commons, featuring all of our different cultural and religious-based clubs and orgs, just for students to come out and see what the opportunities are for connection. And we were lucky to work with Dining Services, who put together a great menu for that day, all made up of recipes shared by the groups that participated in that resource fair. And one of the other opportunities that we created for connection are our community resource groups, which we hold during the fall semester in the Bridge. And these are opportunities for all members of the JWU community to come together, regardless of how they identify. And it includes students, staff, and faculty, but each of the groups are focused on and centered around different identities that make up our community. So some of our community resource groups in the past have centered around our LGBTQ plus community, our BIPOC community, or that is Black, Indigenous, and people of color, our Latina community, our disability or disabled community, as well as our veterans and military families. So those are always opportunities for students to come and staff and faculty to come together and share their experiences and maybe generate some next steps in terms of their involvement on campus or what they would like to see here.
Yeah, and I really love too how you brought up Dining Services there providing that food, and because I think food is such a big piece of connection. You know, I think so many people, you know, can connect over food and be like, oh my goodness, that's how I make that item as well. Yeah. And of course, being here at Johnson Wales, well, the big culinary component, of course, kind of adds to that. But it made me think too, when you're talking about groups and clubs and whatnot, are you also a resource, Mike, for perhaps things that are off campus, like ways to connect and various places to engage in that are not directly on JWU?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We can kind of serve as a bridge or a connection to community-based organizations or places of worship. So we maintain a list of places of worship in the Providence community for all members of all different faiths to find a spot to gather and worship, especially students who are here from outside of the Providence area, right, who are looking for new places. Or we are connected to all different nonprofit organizations to connect students, whether they're looking to work with folks, if they're looking for opportunities to volunteer. So yeah, we have connections to a lot of community organizations that we can connect students to.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the volunteer opportunity. So you're a good resource then for that as well? Folks want to do that?
Yep, we can certainly share. We don't organize the opportunities themselves, but we can kind of make connections between students and organizations. And then I would also need to point out that student engagement is a great opportunity for community service as well, and connecting with different organizations for more structured volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, and all great connection pieces, you know, and again, not to harp on it too much, and as I said on the podcast I was with Lindsay, you know, people need people, you know, we need each other, Mike, and like, that's one of the, you know, biggest challenges or big markers for a therapist is when we see folks that are isolating more, don't have those connections, you know, it can be, you know, a marker for potential current challenges or potential future challenges and things like that. And obviously it's all person specific, you know, I wouldn't want to suggest that everyone needs like 30 friends, you know. Someone might be very happy and content with 3 core friends, you know, but we all need people. And I just think that the Bridge is a great opportunity to find those people. Yeah. And then, you know, just so many other things on campus, you know, just by the chance of stumbling upon somebody. You know, I talk to people all the time about this like happen chance model, you know, because nothing happens in your dorm, you know, perhaps apart from homework and sleep, you know, you're not going to meet new people. It just doesn't happen, you know, and you simply walking down to the library, simply walking through Gaby Commons, you might see somebody who has a shirt on of a band you like or whatever it is. And all these little small moments, you know, that might seem like they're never going to happen. they can happen when we get out and do things.
Absolutely. And one thing connected to that I always like to point out is that I really appreciate Johnson & Wales' value of inclusion and belonging, right? We have a culture of inclusion and belonging, but what I like about it is that it's not just one person's responsibility to kind of create and foster this value of inclusion and belonging. It's everybody's job. There's things that every one of us can do every day to reach out and connect with our peers, right? And make sure people feel seen and feel heard. So there's opportunities for everybody in every department, for students to work with every department on campus to kind of find a sense of community and connection.
Yeah, certainly. And then just to kind of nail down the details here, I know we talked specifically about where the bridge is, but what about like the hours? Like when can folks pop in, you know?
It varies a bit from semester to semester. We are finalizing our schedule for the spring semester right now, but typically we open at 10 or 11 in the morning, and then we'll usually stay open till about 8 at night. And it's an open space, so students are welcome to come in anytime that we're open. Even if there's events or activities taking place in there, we make sure that there's a spot for students who want to kind of sit and relax or study, so they can still be in there while other things are happening.
Wow, okay.
And that's Monday through Friday.
Okay, so closed on the weekends,
Yep.
I mentioned. All right, and then here's another perhaps tough question, Mike, not to throw you off again, but so obviously the bridge here is down city, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've already mentioned that Carina, of course, is on Harborside and whatnot.
Yeah.
But would you say there's any sort of equivalent space to the bridge on Harborside that's just a nice space just to go if you want a nice, relaxing, quiet space? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I like about the bridge is, yes, we have our physical space down city, but as I said a minute ago, it's kind of more of a culture, right? A shared belief or shared work of connection across the university. So all of the work of the bridge isn't confined to the four walls of the bridge. So we're often over at Harborside offering different conversations and different programs. But in terms of physical space, the first floor of the Friedman Center has a really great space run by student engagement that has different games and activities in there that is really active. There's always a lot of students in there. And then I like to go upstairs in the Friedman Center too, which is a little more quiet. There's lots of good study space up there, place to have meetings or do homework. And our library is great. The library team, both Down City and Harborside, I can't say enough positive things about in terms of the work they do to support students in the classroom, but also what they do to kind of set the tone and contribute to our culture of inclusion and belonging here at Johnson & Wales.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Mike. And I also was going to say the Friedman Center, second floor, I've noticed that there's a lot of great little spaces, little alcoves, if you will, you know. Mm-hmm. And then also I remember I spoke to a student this semester, and that's another thing I love about just being a counselor here is I get all these little insights from students and whatnot. I hadn't realized that you can go into the museum and just kind of sit in one of the little areas in there. Yep. You know, of course, I've been to the museum, but I didn't realize it was, you know, a space just to relax in or just study in even. And that's what a student had mentioned to me. And I was like, wow, that's really cool.
It is. It's great. And they work to always have different displays connected to different cultures and different aspects of our history. So it's a great place to go in, study, relax, hang out, and also check out all the different work that they have that's regularly rotating through there. So yeah, that's a great point.
Great. All right. Well, it made me think too, just again about connecting with you, Mike, and connecting with the bridge. Let's say a student maybe was nervous or uncomfortable with maybe even just walking into the bridge. Is it possible to call or email? Is that an option?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So students can, so a few things. One is we have an Instagram page or Instagram account that's really active. We regularly keep it updated with information and programs and events. So that's just at JWU Bridge. We are active on JWU Link itself, so you can post a message on JWU Link. You can give us a call at 401-598-4776, or just send us an email at bridge@jwu.edu. Students are welcome to just come in anytime. I will say I'm always available for students, but also often running programs or in meetings or things like that. So while students are welcome to stop by and see if I'm in, it's always a good idea to call or email first, just to make sure I'm there if a student is looking to connect.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Mike. And before we conclude, is there anything else you wanted to add, or do you feel like you covered what you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I think we covered it all. Yeah, I appreciate the the conversation.
Yeah,
Thanks, Joe.
yeah. So thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take care.